On this episode, we're joined by Scott Baker from Eastern Canada to talk about an anomaly that's going on in the 5X camera of the 15 Pro Max, only when you shoot RAW. What the heck is it? Well, we're going to have a look and we'll talk about it. We'll also look at our recent photos and we're going to include some of Scott's in that. All this coming up on the iPhoneography podcast. It's Monday, March 11th as we record the iPhoneography podcast live on YouTube and soon to be released on audio on the Apple Podcasts app. My name is Greg McMillan, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dave Podner. Hello, David.
Greg, how's it going tonight?
It's going pretty good. As you can see on the live stream, we have a guest with us tonight. It is Mr. Scott Baker.
Yes.
Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Good. Not too bad.
Just tell everybody a little bit about you, so that in case nobody's heard of you or seen you before, so they can
probably haven't.
figure out who you are.
My name is Scott. I live on the east coast of Canada, fellow Canadian like Greg. Nova Scotia, and I've been doing photography. Oh, geez, I don't know. Seriously? Well, I say seriously, but it's become more of a thing. Probably in the last 3 to 5 years, I would say, I've really starting to get into it and stuff, the mobile photography, and so really enjoying it. Great community.
Cool. So we basically met each other on Shane Mawson's Bloody Legends group, and
correct,
so and we are admins on the Facebook group. So we know each other pretty good. We haven't met in person, but and the same goes with just about everybody I know in this field. I'm stuck in little old Ontario, and Dave, you're way down in by Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania.
We don't hold that against them.
Yeah. But and of course Shane, he's all the way across in Australia. So if we were looking at him, he'd be upside down. But so Shane, if you're watching, how you doing? But in the chat, I see we got Dale Lotherington. He's from the Gold Coast, I think. Is it Dale? From the great continent of Australia. Mm-hmm. And we have Todd Weiner. He says, "Hello guys, hold on a minute at the Phoenix airport. Oh, getting ready to leave to go back to LA. Oh, traveling. That's got to be fun.
I'd love to go to LA.
So anyway, we my thing says we got 7 people watching right now. So that's cool. Hopefully more will chime in. But we're going to talk a bit tonight about a little anomaly that I think you first saw this, didn't you, Scott?
Dale.
Oh, it was Dale that saw it first?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That Dale saw then, and then it's kind of been bleeding over into Dale's from Newcastle, Australia. There you go. It's kind of been bleeding over to the rest of us in our little Bloody Legends admin group about this anomaly that we're seeing in it's in RAW files from the 5X camera, or the 120 millimeter camera of the iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max. Now
it'd have to be the Pro Max.
Pardon?
It'd have to be the Pro Max because the Pro's only got the 3.
Oh yeah, the Pro's only got the 3. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I wonder if it does it in the Pro. No, I'm curious.
Well, that's a good question. Dave, your wife Ruth, she has the Pro Max, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Yeah, she has the Max.
So we can't test that right now, but what it is when you take a photo of like a sunset or something with light areas, either on. So if you're holding, I don't know if it's got to be a specific way that you're holding the phone. Always on, I would think.
It's always on the right side. So if you have it, depending on how you have it oriented, like if you're holding it vertically, it's always on that right side.
Right. So, okay. So then if you, depending on which way you tilt it horizontally, it'll be either
on the top or bottom.
Yeah. Okay. And I think most people turn it, turn it to a 45 to the left so that the cameras are on like Dave's showing here.
Okay.
The cameras are on the top part of the frame, like in the upper left corner, I guess, of the phone.
Yeah.
And then it would be along the top of the picture.
So it'd be like right here. The same size as the lenses, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to put some pictures up here as we're talking, and for folks that are listening to the audio, after the audio comes out, you'll be able to see these on your iPhone screen, and you're going to see what we're talking about here. Now, this is a strange anomaly. I'm going to share my screen. There it is.
And it's only after you upload to like a raw viewer, right? Or a processor or something, it gets processed. Because like in the gallery, it's not there. It's not until you uploaded it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there you can see that now I got these are screenshots that I got from Scott.
Yeah.
And this is just a picture of your ceiling.
Shot. Yep.
And you took this with even no, this apparently happens with any app that can shoot a raw file, whether it's a long exposure or a still photo. Is that correct?
Yep. This was, I believe this was on single mode, and or it might have been just like 1 second, and I just clicked up. And but with Reflex, the Pro app, just a single shot. It's it's there.
Right. Now this is a halide shot, a raw shot from halide. You can see it along the right hand side. This is a Reflex raw shot. There's the same thing. And there is the re-exposed shot. Now, in order to see this, you wouldn't see it unless you made the adjustment that we see on the screen here, and it's the dehaze slider in Lightroom Mobile, and you crank it up to a higher value, and that's when it starts to appear.
Yeah, you can kind of notice it just a little bit, and then like as soon as you crank that dehaze, it's very evident.
This one here from Even Longer that I've got on the screen right now, that's what we'll be showing on the audio in the podcast app when people listen to this, because it's really prevalent on this one. And the funny thing is your dehaze isn't even up as high as the other ones were generally. It's only 65 out of a 99 setting. But this is so strange. What's that, Scott?
I was just going to say it might have just been different lighting when I took the photo. Like I was literally laying on the couch looking straight up in the air. So somebody might put a light on. But it's and like I said, you got to upload it to like Adobe or Darkroom or Snapseed or one of these raw viewers, and then like you can literally watch it in the gallery as you upload it. You're looking at your phone, and then poof, it like lights up that one side.
Now I didn't see it in Darkroom or Raw Power, but I did see it in Snapseed and Lightroom Mobile.
Okay, I don't have Darkroom to test it, but I thought somebody said it was in Darkroom.
Like Darkroom doesn't have a dehaze slider, but it does have a clarify slider or clarity slider. However, I tried that clarity slider and it didn't show up. So I'm wondering if some raw editors. I mean, I guess they have different algorithms, maybe. I don't know. But Lightroom, it's the king, I think, of raw editors in that respect, because it's a pretty big company and there's a lot of people behind it and everything else. Now, Shane Mostyn, he reached out to Russell Brown, did he not?
He did, yes.
Yeah.
He sent him some examples and stuff like that of it.
Yeah, and I don't think he's heard back though. And just today, you contacted Sebastian DeWitt from Halide on Twitter,
correct,
or X.
Yeah.
And so what did he say?
He seemed to think it was something maybe in the Apple pipeline with that camera, those lenses, or that processing of the raw file, and just they haven't really either updated things. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but basically Apple hasn't really. My take was Apple really hasn't updated things on their end to do it because it's raw, not pro raw, because it only happens with raw.
Yeah, you don't see it in pro raw.
Nope.
So I mean, I'm quite doubtful, but I'm hoping Apple listens to this podcast. Excuse me. And I mean, hopefully they could, they need to be aware of it anyway, because it's really weird. It only happens on the 5X.
Yeah.
Dave, I mean, you don't shoot RAW as a rule, so
no. So I've not experienced this. My question is, if you go beyond 5X, like even 5.1, 5.2X, does it still happen, or is it only exactly at 5?
Good question.
And I'm assuming at 4.9 it wouldn't happen.
I would think
Dale,
not,
you need to check this,
because that's the that's the that's what I love about you, Dave. You may not use RAW, but you got these ideas. Like, that's the engineering coming out of you.
Thinking outside the box.
But just trying to narrow it down in terms of, like I said, it's only on the 5X in these certain situations. So is there a problem with the whole prismatic, the fact that the light's hitting the way this, is that causing the issue? Or is it the fact it's happening it looks like it's consistent in the position.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but again, it's only when you upload it to, like, if you look in your Apple Gallery at it, or Google Photos, I use that.
fine.
It's not there. Perfectly there. As soon as you hit it to upload to Adobe or one of these other RAW editors.
Yeah. And like you said, it's RAW. It's not Pro RAW.
Right.
So it may be something, and I'm just spitballing here. It could be something physical, the way the light, because it isn't a periscope lens.
Right. Yep.
Like Samsung uses. So it's seeing multiple reflections going on here. But I could see Apple putting, testing and saying, oh, there's an issue here, but we'll fix it. We can fix this in the software, in the Pro RAW built-in, on the chip. They can do processing as part of Pro RAW, and they can make some adjustments to make it look good. The Apple Magic Dust. But RAW doesn't have that.
Right.
And
Dale brings up a good point. All the third-party apps don't allow zoom, so you can't use, like, in Reflex, right? You're stuck at that 5X. You can't go past it and stuff.
Yeah, you can with Reflex.
Oh, can you? Okay.
Yep. Just pinch
in RAW
pinch
too.
Out. Oh, in RAW, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm gonna say maybe not.
I don't have Reflex downloaded either.
Yeah, the worst part about this right now is Scott and I are both using our phones as cameras.
Yeah, I can't try it.
Right. But you could bet your sweet patootie we're going to be trying this after we get done.
Yeah,
with
Maurice is saying that it can use that, but he's not. But that's on the 14 Pro Max, so that's only up to the 3X. That's not the 5X.
Yeah.
Dale says
Dale's our guinea pig. He says Reflex does not support zoom. So Dale, I assume that's in RAW. But in
or maybe like you can zoom. Maybe what you're talking about is like going from the, like, you'll zoom from the ultra wide to the regular, then to the 5X. Like, it goes like that.
You can't do the smooth zoom.
Yeah,
you can switch between the lenses. You can do a hard switch, but you really can't do a zoom, because the zoom, we know Apple, when they do zoom, if you're in between lenses, it interpolates multiple lenses to get you that image.
All 7. Right. Incredible.
But I know I had my phone set up to take a shot of the moon, and I was able to pinch out to zoom, like, right up to 25X or whatever the capability is of that camera. I don't know.
Now, were you using RAW or Pro RAW?
That's a good question. I don't remember.
Okay. or even Height Max.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But it was definitely in Reflex. Because
RAW and Pro RAW won't zoom, but non-RAW formats can zoom. Yeah.
Okay, I must have had it in Height Max or whatever. Yeah.
Darn you, Apple.
Darn you, Apple. Yeah. So I mean, this is an interesting issue. And
I would say it definitely is an edge case.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, you're shooting in non-Apple, you're shooting in regular RAW, not Pro RAW.
Which is better raw than pro raw, but not for Apple.
right,
yeah.
yeah.
As we say about the Apple 99 rule, is it good for 90% of the people 90% of the time? How
Yeah,
many people are actually shooting in RAW?
very few.
Very
I
few,
imagine.
and I imagine most of the people who do shoot in RAW are probably shooting in the Apple Pro RAW and not
Yeah,
regular RAW, because you don't want to do, you know, if you're coming from a DSLR and you're used to shooting, or if you're used to working in RAW and working in Lightroom and doing all the different adjustments, that's one thing. But just sheer volume, most people aren't coming from there.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
agree. Yeah,
and so hopefully Apple, even if it doesn't hit the volume, it's showing something's going on that isn't right.
right.
So hopefully they look at it, because it could be an underlying issue.
Yeah,
And especially since if they do, as the rumors suggest, the 5X will migrate down to the Pro, the smaller Pro next year.
right.
So it isn't
Yeah,
just won't be the Pro Max, it'll be the regular Pro, and the non-Pro will still have the ultra wide and the normal.
yeah.
I
I just
I,
hope
I, I
it
ref- I'm
I
sorry.
was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
I just hope it doesn't get turned into the you're holding it wrong type things where you're shooting it
Oh,
wrong, like,
Ah,
and they don't do anything about it.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's a weird one. I mean, and it has all of us puzzled. That's for sure. Any of us that are experiencing it.
yeah,
Um, but I'm glad we had this conversation about it because,
Yeah,
Dave, with your input especially, because I mean, you're kind of thinking outside the box here because you don't shoot in RAW, but yet so that's forcing you to ask these questions about,
yeah.
the zoom level and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the tetraprism thing has kind of got me thinking, um, is it an anomaly with the tetraprism? Who knows? Who knows what's happening with the light inside of that thing?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
mm,
yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
When you
Uh,
yeah,
start bending things and I got figured the straight periscope lens like Samsung uses would be a simpler design in the tetrahedron,
yeah,
tetraprism. It's just a simpler design. It takes up more space, not a
yeah,
lot more space, but more space.
yeah.
So that's why Samsung going with the more, I hate to say durable, that's not the right term, but the more straightforward
yeah,
answer to the same problem. And notice that Samsung is no longer, they got rid of their 10x lens. They're going back, they went to a 5x in the latest one. It just doubled the
sensor
megapixels.
size. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you, some real world examples of what this does to your images. You can see on one of Scott's photos here of a sunset. It's a long exposure.
I was like, what is that
So
on the screen? I didn't see that. Oh, that's your mouse cursor.
that's what?
Your mouse pointer there. I seen
Oh,
something on the
there.
screen. I
Okay.
was like,
Yeah,
what was
I'll get
that?
it
I
out
don't
of the
remember
way.
seeing that in the photo. Yeah,
So yeah, Scott, tell us, a little bit about this picture with regards to the anomaly that we see across the top. What I'll do is with my mouse pointer, I will highlight that. It's right
yeah,
along here.
yeah. So this
Mm-hmm.
is I believe a 1 minute, might have been a 1 minute, 1.5 minute long exposure, using even longer. And I'm at the local beach, and you get the waves coming in on the set of rocks and stuff. I love the 5X. The look it gives. Like I just really, really like the look. And this is why I'm really bummed about this, is because I've found myself using the 5X. I think almost all the photos I sent you, Greg, tonight, were taken with the 5X, because it's just, I'm just finding that it's just composure wise, yeah, I'm just really, really enjoying it and stuff like that. And so having this band across the top, it's annoying, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a beautiful sunset. It was sun was coming down and clouds were looking nice and stuff, but it just gave me this up in the clouds feeling, like with the smoothed out water and stuff, and you're up on a mountain or something, like looking over at the other peaks. And yeah, that was kind of the idea behind this as I was taking it. It's like, yeah, just mountainish.
And then in this next image, it's even more prevalent.
Yeah, because it's a darker clouds.
Yeah. Sun was a bit lower, clouds a bit darker.
There's very little you can do to get rid of that. I was going through some images today that I took yesterday at a waterfall, and I took 3 or 4 of the top of the falls, and we're going to see one later when we look at our recent photos. And the anomaly was there, but it was only in the light part of the waterfall. There's trees up and above at the top of the frame. You won't see them there. You won't see this issue there because it's too busy. The image is too busy there. This really shows up in parts of an image that are, very
darker,
kind of a solid background or whatever. Like the sky, right?
The other weird thing is that it's not consistent. It isn't like a broken pixel or something where you see like a solid line. It's brighter, at least on the image on screen. It's brighter on the left side, and kind of, if you only looked at like the right 8,
I agree.
It would be very hard to see it there.
But in my image, I was able to fix it with, excuse me, with a lot of masking. Probably 4 or 5 different masks, little radial masks, where I would put a real long, skinny, like radial mask on, and then just play with the contrast or the brightness, just whatever direction I had to go to kind of get rid of that, and it worked. I was able to salvage that image, but to do it on one like Scott's picture here, boy oh boy, I just don't know.
You could try and clone it and maybe, but like there's such gradient changes that
it would look weird. That would just look weird. Agreed.
You'd almost have to just crop it out, like if you really want to get rid of it.
Agreed.
Pretty much, yeah. So I mean, going forward, you almost have to kind of plan your shot that way. You have to
like if I would have flip the phone here, maybe having the line at the bottom, maybe that might have been it was a little bit more busier, maybe.
I mean, that's the other thing. I'd be interested if you took a picture, flipped the phone, and took the same picture.
Oh yeah.
Would it still be on top, or would it flip to the bottom?
It would flip to the bottom.
It would flip to the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, because if you do the like the vertical, it's on the side and stuff like that. So it's always on that right side.
So
annoying.
Anybody that sees this video, excuse me, or listens to the audio later, if you know what it could be, let us know. If you know somebody at Apple, hey, you know what? Guess what? Oh, this is a good one. The Filmic Pro, with all that stuff that went on there, I just happened to know Christopher Cohen, who was one of the co-founders of that app.
Before they got taken over.
A job at Apple in the camera department.
Really?
Yes. Why didn't I think of this earlier?
You had one. I even asked this
for the audio listeners.
Who has an Apple?
That's me smacking my head.
To you, Greg. Get a hold of your Apple contact.
But he's so fresh there that I didn't. I
didn't even think about
him. So, Christopher, if you're listening to this, I'm going to reach out to him. I will. I will reach out to him.
Please do.
I'll send him these samples, and you know,
So
he's
weird.
very new with Apple. He's very new there, but it'll be interesting to see if if maybe he can come up with something. Maybe he can poke around a little bit and maybe come to some kind of a solution. But that's
So you are
yeah.
saying it doesn't happen in the Pro RAW.
no.
Correct.
So I mean, I hate to say it this way, but a workaround other than cropping is how much is the difference you notice between RAW and Pro RAW in terms of the image quality and how you like it.
Well, the issue
or is Apple hitting too much of the Apple in between?
No. So for myself, I do a lot of long exposure stuff. So I have to use these.
You have to use
re-expose even longer and stuff like that. That now I can shoot in those in non-RAW. I believe there's the option to use a JPEG or maybe TIFF file format. So that might be an option to see if it shows up in those, because I've only ever shot in RAW and done it. But yeah, so that's why I don't use the Pro RAW.
Devo
I'm just trying to think of like even basic workaround types. Like I said, Greg has the easiest. Just plan the top, little bit of the image you're going to be throwing away. But that also messes up
the composition.
In a way, the composition, unless you're willing to crop this way, not just crop, not just chop off the top, but
you're also
in to keep the same aspect ratio.
You're almost looking at going to like a 16:9 after the crop.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Like it's disappointing.
Or, like I said, no, agreed. You shouldn't have to.
Right.
No,
you should not have to. But it's kind of like when you use at least when I use the ultra wide, I'm assuming that there's a border around the outside, which I'm going to have to throw away because of lens distortion.
Yeah.
So you almost have to think about that with the 5Xs. Think, okay, I'm going to have for right now a border where I'm going to throw it away.
Yeah, it's just such a tight crop, anyways. Yeah. Usually with the 5X,
especially with the 5X. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not simple, but we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yes, we will somehow.
Yes.
I'm also thinking it's one of these things that it's a minority of a minority. But it's a high-end minority. It's the people Apple really want to hit. Because if you want to have these, like Scott, that was the picture's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Even with the banding, just because it's in the cloud, people may not notice it unless you point it out.
That's one thing. Like, and honestly, I'd never noticed it at all, almost until I think Dale pointed it out, and then. To one of Shane's photos, he asked, and then it's like, "Oh, did you notice that?" And it was a different photo, and I was like, "No, I didn't see it." It's like I don't have it. And it's like, "Oh my god, I do! There it is!" It's like,
and now you can't unsee it.
See it.
That's the thing; you can't unsee it. Yeah,
no.
But those are the pictures that Apple wants out there.
Yeah,
because you want to say this was taken with an iPhone. Those high quality is like. Wait a minute, you took that with a phone and not a, $4,000 camera lens combination, and have to have the not saying
Canadian
not skill.
Money. Canadian money, it's almost a $4,000 camera.
Well, okay, very true, yeah.
Well, so let's just jump real quick to the chat here. There's not a ton of activity, but we got
sorry to hear about Will being in bed day 5 with COVID.
Yeah. So we'll be thinking about you, Will. Thanks for tuning in. It's an awful thing. But
notifications are terrible.
We got Devo. Devo is another. Devo's another one in the Bloody Legends admin group, and he's in the UK.
He's probably at a pub.
So he's probably at a pub. Either that, or he just shut off his live stream for his gaming.
Maybe, yeah.
You know,
I
he
say
was
it
on
need-
there for
it-
over 3 hours the other night. He
That's
had
crazy.
like a 3.5 hour YouTube video that he streamed. That's crazy.
Let's say time in the UK right now, it's 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah. So he's in a pub.
So he's at a pub.
Well, you know, this was a pretty good conversation about this problem, this issue. Um, I think it's one that needs to be had, not just by us, but it needs to be had by people at Apple. And I don't think there's anything that the developers could do because they're at the mercy of the sensor and the way the camera works. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I am going to get a hold of Chris Cohen and see if there's anything that he can do to look into it or whatever.
Kind of talking about employees. I seen something online the other day. How many people worked on the camera at Apple?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Somebody said 800, and it was close to 900 people or something like that worked on just the camera alone. That's bananas.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I can't wrap my head around that many people working on that. Like, how does
I know what I see that from Petapixel, 800.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, Petapixel. I was reading it in that or something. Yeah.
Well, no, but that's from 2015.
Oh my God, that's 2015. Okay.
That's 2015.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm seeing that for multiple things saying 2015. So yeah,
it's probably more.
Yeah, it's got to be. Well, and also it's just not the people working on the physical camera. It's the software people working on the camera. It's the integration with the sensor and the lenses and the stuff on the chips. You know, they're customized chips. So there's chip people who are writing hardwire code into the chip for the camera.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say how many people are working on a particular part.
Yeah.
Because
that's true.
It especially in the last few of them, everything's so built in and integrated now.
Yeah.
That, to do the video processing, you need the special chip that's part of the system on a chip. So that needs to write to this and that needs to write to the operating system. So all these engineers have to work together.
Yeah. It must be, I can only imagine how the workflow, like in there, cause how would you combine that, you know what I mean, to one person working on this, who's working on that, who's working on this, and then have all that integrate so well. I just can't imagine.
We'll jump in the chat here real quick. Devo says 6 hours on, I was very, very drunk. LOL. That must have been the long live stream I was talking about. Will Newcomb, great lighting as usual. Thanks, Will. I do try. Hopefully I sound as good as it looks. Maurice Backley, Backley or Bakley? I'm going to say Backley. I jumped off for a minute to put the kids to bed, so you might not have discussed this, but I imagine the issue is consistent every time you could do the brightness correction on a neutral gray image. And he says, then make that a preset. I built some presets to take out chromatic aberrations from external lenses, so I didn't have to find the exact purple color to extract each time. That's interesting.
That would be, to come up with a preset. Maybe something to experiment with. Yep.
Yeah. Dale says, now Apple has crossed the line. Hashtag Linegate.
That's perfect.
Yes, Linegate.
It's incredible. 2 times.
That is incredible. I like I say, I'm glad we had this conversation. It's a conversation that needs to be had by us, by Apple, by whoever.
Yeah.
And I think the more people that get out there and hear about it, or the more people that find out about it, the more people can get, looking for some kind of a resolution to this, because it is downright annoying for sure.
Yeah.
So So now what we'll do is we will go to our recent photos. And so now usually we have Dave puts 3 and I put 3, but now because Scott's here, we're all going to do 2 each. And we're going to start with you, Scott, with this one here.
So that was at the same beach that I took the other photos of. Different day though. Tide was a lot lower here. This photo is something I've wanted to try and do for a while, and I've seen Andy Green do it. Andy Green is a huge inspiration for me.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he is so talented, and so I reached out to him. I said, these are the settings I'm looking to try in with the Reflex Pro app. I don't think you can do it in Halide. I looked at their app a little bit today, and I don't know if you can do it in even longer with their single shutter mode. Reached out to Andy. He gave me some pointers and stuff, and the tide was going out, and it just, I was really happy. I took probably that day, I think it was 302 photos, and because I was standing there, and as the tide's going out, and literally just click, 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 trying to get the perfect, with the wash going out and stuff like that, and the waves and everything, because it's not consistent and stuff. So I was tapping away, trying different things. I'm bad. I don't know if you can call it bad or good for it, but the other night when I went out for the sunset photos, 270 something photos, because again, wow. I'm sitting there and I'm clicking and clicking and clicking, trying to get that perfect wave tide combination kind of thing. And so this was one of my favorites, because it just I'm very happy with this photo and stuff.
So as you shot this, the water was on its way out?
Correct. Yeah. It had come in and then just took a bunch of shots as it was going out and stuff. Yeah.
I saw a video on YouTube by a photographer, and it might have been Michael Shane Bloom, but I'm not 100% sure. But he said that's the time to do it, is when the water's receding. Not coming in.
Correct. Yeah. You got to get it, because the way it just brings it out, and you can just get the right, like a little bit of white cap on it, that it leaves those white streaks. And I loved it. Hit that one spot in the corner there where it just twirled around and stuff. And that's just beautiful. Yeah. I was really happy I got that photo. Yeah.
Now, did you use an ND filter?
I'm trying to think on that. I think I might have had a 5-stop ND on this one.
That's not the one you dropped in the water.
That was the one I dropped in the water. But
was it? You might as well tell that story too real quick.
So I've got these Ulanzi MagSafe filter mounts. So it clips on the back of your phone, and then it folds over. Shane did a video on it, and folds over, and you can magnetically attach lenses. And so I got the variable ND filter, and so I'm sitting there on was it Saturday, and I'm sitting on this rock, and the waves are just beating in and stuff like that. And I don't know if it was a particular wave or something, but I just moved a little bit, and the lens popped off, and it went bing, 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 and rolled down off the rock into the ocean. So I get up and I'm looking for it, and I can see where it is. And then the waves are beating in and it's moving around. It wasn't very deep. It was only maybe that deep or something like that. But every time the wave came in, and it was cold water. So it was, I fished it out, but I think it does have a couple scratches. I don't know how that's going to affect the use of it and stuff, but
it might neutralize that line.
It might. Yeah. So I did send Ulanzi a email today saying, listen, the magnets on this aren't as strong, because Shane says his is pretty good and stuff like that, but I don't know if I have a I forget the brand, but a different one that's magnetic and a CPL, and they stick better. So I don't know something. So they asked for a video. I took a little video showing them how it just basically falls off, and I haven't got a reply yet, but hopefully maybe I got a dud one, but yeah.
And you had it on a case?
Yes,
no?
yes. Well, I have the Sandmark case with the screw in, but since this is a magnetic thing, it just flips over.
So it's a MagSafe case.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then it should have been fine. So maybe
it's not the magnet to the case. That's perfect. Like that's plenty strong. It's just the lens to the other side that it doesn't work well.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely could. You can have a bad magnet, or maybe it was cut a little thinner than they wanted to, type thing.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
One thing I love about the photo is the fact that the sky is not consistent all the way across.
Yeah. It was clouding in as it got darker and stuff like that, and I think that adds to it a little bit and stuff. Yeah,
but I do like the fact it's clear behind the rocks, or not clear, but that you can see sky and not clouds behind the rocks, so you get that contrast. Of the gold behind the rocks versus where I think if the clouds were switched, it wouldn't stick out as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And the rocks, there's a lot of texture and edges and all that stuff.
A lot of seaweed on them.
That's the busiest part of the frame.
Yeah.
Everything else is rather smooth looking in comparison, and it's just like a roughness and smoothness. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, juxtaposition maybe, or something. But it's really cool. It's and okay. So sense of scale, Scott, how high would those rocks be?
Oh, there's
talking like 5-6 feet or something.
Yeah, the ones further out are probably closer to 8 or 10 feet and stuff.
Okay,
if not more. So yeah.
Well, that's a cool shot. That is really cool.
Thank you.
So, Dave.
Okay. Now, this was one where I annoyed Ruth because we were driving home, and it just the way that the clouds hit, they just a little bit of patchiness with the sky popping through, but just the symmetry with the houses on either side, the leading lines going straight down. And I said, "Give me your phone, hon." Because this was on her phone. And so this is her 15 Pro Max. I said, "Give me your phone." And I took a vertical and a horizontal picture. I posted both to the group. And I like, it's just one of those things where it just kind of caught my eye just going down the road. Like I said, this is a new-ish development in one of the towns close by. And just how, this is something you don't get in Pittsburgh, straight lines on roads. We don't get that very often.
Yeah,
it's pretty flat too.
Yeah. Well, this used to be a steel mill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is an old steel mill area down in Oakmont that the mill shut down in the early 90s or mid 90s, and they just graded it out and made all these townhouses and homes, and just hundreds and thousands of them down there.
I have to say that is the greenest spring grass I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, that's the area. I mean, well, it's it's a development. So, the developer owner of it, they take care of all the lawn work with the HOAs and all that other fun stuff, which I don't have here, but they do there because these are expensive homes. So they do all the green. You figure this is taken in early March. Nothing. I mean, not much is green here naturally.
Nothing's green here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have as much white as you guys do, but
well, we've lost all ours.
Ours is gone too.
But now, like I said, one thing I do appreciate about this development is they do have sidewalks. where like for a while there, no one was putting in sidewalks to make it walkable. So at least it's walkable.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just loved how it almost looks like you took like for the houses going down past the intersection, it's almost like a mirror image.
Oh yeah, the symmetry is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the contrast, the sky between the houses. Yeah. It's a beautiful photo. Yeah.
And I did bump that up. So the original photo as is, the sky turned out a little cloud, wasn't as, you didn't see as much of the detail in the sky when I first took it.
Right.
So I did bump that up a little bit there.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that interests me is on the left side, you've got a big tree. On the right side, you got a big house. So it's almost like, you know, it takes a tree to make a house, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's funny how you see, you know, the product before and the product after kind of sort of thing. You know, the tree and then the house. It's I don't know. It may be a silly way to think, but but I like too that you've got the street. You're looking right down the center of it, and
it draws you right in.
It does. It's almost like a Stanley Kubrick thing, and you know, it's just a well shot image. It's a good find, and I'm glad you bugged Ruth to get the shot. So next we will go to this one here. Now this is the one I was talking about earlier. For those watching live, right here, is where I had to fix it, because that's where that anomaly would have shown up. Yeah. So it took me, like I say, about 4 or 5 different attempts with a small radial mask to play with the, you know, the contrast or the highlights or whatever it took. I tried different things until it looked right to get rid of that line. But this is with re-expose, and it was, I want to say, maybe a half a second or so, or I'm not sure. I forget exactly how long it was. But this is just the top of the waterfall, and you know, there's trees up top. I call this one under the tree and over the top. That's the title I gave it on Instagram, because the water comes underneath this tree that's kind of growing out over the water, and then just comes down over the top of the escarpment. This is the Niagara Escarpment. Little trivia: the Niagara Escarpment runs from the top of the Bruce Peninsula from a little town called Tobermory, and it runs all the way down the peninsula, right through Owen Sound, the town I live in, and works its way right down to Niagara Falls. And there's people that have hiked the Bruce Trail that goes the whole length of it. Some people have hiked the whole trail multiple times in their lives, and it takes a long time to do the whole thing. Some people have probably done it in the same year, but other people take years to do it. But anyway, you know, and I had to really play with the exposure, like in Lightroom, of the tree trunk down here where the roots and stuff are, to get it to show up, because it was pretty dark underneath there. But I think I got away with it to the point where it looks somewhat natural.
Yeah, no, that looks really nice. Was it snowing then?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, it looks like you can get a little bit. Yeah, that adds to it. I find that's just add a little more texture to it and stuff. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and I think there's, you know, when you do a long exposure of waterfalls, if you can get away with it without that braided look, I think the shorter the exposure, the better. Had it been like a 30-second exposure, there wouldn't have been much texture and detail in the water. And of course, I used the clarity. And what's that?
I was going to say there's like a fine point. Like if you can get it, you know, just right, it's to avoid the braiding. Yeah, for sure. You know, with something like reheld, minimum 10 to 15 seconds to get rid of that braiding. You have to let it work, you know, to fill it all in, and then you don't see it. But if you go like 7 seconds or whatever, you're still going to see a little bit of it, I think. But
No, I just, I've been watching photographers on YouTube, like Gavin Hardcastle is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
His long exposures of waterfalls are generally half a second,
Yeah.
quarter second. They're not very long. Now he's not shooting
Yeah.
with a phone, so
No.
he's not going to get the braiding no matter what you do, I guess. Um, but it's challenging. I mean, I don't know how many pictures I took that day. It wasn't no 300.
Try
but
harder then.
but it was a lot of fun. And
Yeah. No, that definitely, it's a beautiful photo. And this is the 5X, so I love that camera. Like, it's just the perspective that it gives you. I really like it.
yeah, thanks. And I really like this one.
Oh, thank you very much. So this is down, this is like probably 30 seconds from my host. You can't see it. My host is basically on the right side of the photo, in behind those trees, like
Okay.
around there. Yeah, it was a long day at work, and I needed some nice quiet time, and so I stopped on my way home, and we have this beautiful brook that runs through, and tide was low, so I used the 5X on this one, and these rocks were out there, and it was. I think this was maybe I want to say maybe 45 seconds with even longer. I think I used even longer for this one, and it was nice. I really liked the way I think I sent this photo, but it was between this one and a different one when I took it, or that night. Yeah, because I had the tripod lower for this shot, so everything was more on one focal plane, or I had it and then I raised it up, and thought maybe it would fill the better lower part of the picture and stuff like that. But I find, I took your advice, and I think it really sets it off on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, because before, like the other one with the tripod higher, there was a lot more negative space in between the reflection of the tree line and the rocks. So if you could picture basically the rocks lower in the frame and then a lot of blank space here, I think by going lower like this shot is, it compresses everything a little better, and it just takes all that negative space out of it. For me, it worked. It really worked, and
I agree.
And I like the edit. I really like the edit on it. Was there any presets used or anything for this?
I don't think I used a preset on this one. Just played with the sliders until I got it how I liked it. It was a foggy day. It was like, but we had a little bit of sun starting to come through, so the sky was getting a little whiter, a little brighter and stuff, and little hints of sunlight, like for the rocks and stuff like that. Like you can kind of see on the middle one there. It was just a little bit of sun coming out, but it was still a dreary day kind of thing. So I kind of kept it cooler, kept it in that mood and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. What do you think, Dave?
No, agreed. And I love the reflection of the rocks too. That adds just, like I said, in terms of filling the space, having the reflection, and the reflection, even though there's a bit of a, it's not crisp like a mirror, but it's so the reflection itself is and including the reflection of the trees.
Yeah.
That fills it in, where you're not just having rocks with light color around it, but you're having spaces and a framing to it.
Right. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
That's something I could see that on a wall.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else we were doing. Well, I didn't do it yet, but a couple of guys were showing just personal private videos that we shared with each other of video of pictures that we have on the walls. And Dale's place looks like a bloody gallery.
It does. It looks good.
He's got a lot of pictures on his walls that he's taken, and I think that's so cool. But and I could see this one. I could see this one on somebody's wall.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I got room. This is this is right up there with the 50 with the blue caddy, Dave.
Yeah,
That's how much I like this
Yep.
one. And Scott, if you
That
haven't
means a
seen the
lot.
blue
Thank
caddy,
you. I've seen
you
the
haven't-
blue caddy. Yes.
have you seen it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful photo. Yeah.
it's
Oh,
it's
thank you.
the favorite picture that Dave's ever taken that I like the best. So it's really cool.
That means a lot. Thank you.
So Dave, down by the
Yep.
water.
Down by the water, this is out on a run, and it was getting close to sunset, but you can see the rowers out there, and there is a rowing club that uses the public docks, and I'm just out there, and this is using the I'm trying to think of the mood camera.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And
the
we
nice
got a
thing,
thank you from him, by the way.
cool.
On I think was it our first live stream where we mentioned that? And he left a comment in the video, I think. So I was saying thanks for mentioning the app and all that. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And like I said, I did, and just because you can't really undo the presets they have in it, I took one with the normal app too. But I just like the mood it came out with. I didn't do much editing afterwards, and the grain to it.
Yeah.
So I think it just added a nice grain. And the nice thing is with the app is when you set the preset, it kind of gives you a heads up of what the look may look like coming out. So you're not just going blind. Like you see a filter called Tokyo and another one called Istanbul. Like, what's that mean?
Yeah.
And you're making up random names. You're like, famous cities, great. What's it mean? But like on this one, this was Apollo, and it even has like in the photo itself, in the EXIF data, it says Apollo 400-S.
Oh, nice.
So it gives you what the preset was. And I just love the fact that they were out there, doing their thing, rowing. Couldn't hear the person in the regular boat yelling at them, but they were just
don't they? Yeah.
You're going to the left.
Yeah.
But yeah, and honestly, the reason I kind of like the mood camera and cameras like that is like literally I was out on a jog and it just happened upon it and they were moving. So if I had to do a lot of presets, do a lot of work, they'd be gone.
Yeah.
Just knowing that, okay, there's 7 or 8 presets. Okay. Which one? Okay. That one looks good there. Take the photo. And it just with the dock there and the poles coming out of it, I just liked how the whole scene was in the sun and the sky, just a little bit of sun.
Yeah.
As we're looking to the west.
Yeah. I really like the mood of it. I mean, that camera app it's got a good name. And we'll put a link to the show notes up for that app. If I could find it, because it's a beta still, is it not, Dave? Or is it in the App
is.
Store now?
Yeah, it's still in beta. Which and they are updating the beta a good amount too.
Yeah.
So I've gotten multiple updates. So that's a definite positive for the developer. And I have not had any issues with it being in beta. I mean, I'm seeing changes that are UI changes, so definitely, trying to make it work easier and nicer, but I haven't had it crash on me or, hang up or do anything that's negative.
Yeah. So if you like the look that you got with film back in the days, this is another good one to get.
I'm curious if some of the names are of, like, I know some of them are cities and stuff like that, but are some of them based off different films?
I don't think in this,
I think
not really, because like one's called Gold, but that gives you gold.
Kodak have a gold?
I thought that was like Kodak Gold.
Well, it says warm golden hues, ideal for bright sunny days.
Okay.
And then there's like
Yeah.
an analog, which is kind of your 1970s camera. Cine, which is orange for cinematic, metro,
Okay. Yeah. So some of the,
portrait, noir.
the whole reason I asked, there was a video I was watching. I don't know if it was The Verge or it might have been Wavecast or anyways, they were doing it on a film camera, and they were talking about using different films to get different looks. And he said, use this film if you want this look, and it had these kind of names to it and stuff like that. So that's why I thought, well, maybe it's named after the type of film and stuff, and maybe film shooters would understand it more than non-film shooter.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. That I'm not sure, because honestly, when I shot film, what I shot was the 110 camera and the disc camera.
Yeah, I used a wind up. Disposable. Or a Polaroid.
I got my start on a 110.
Oh yeah,
back in the day. Yeah. Well, it's a good shot. I like the level of grain that's in it. It's not too much and it's not too little. I think it really suits the the style of the photo. So it's pretty good.
Yep.
And let me see here. The last one. This is another one from the waterfall, obviously. This one I used reheld. No, was it reheld or reflex? I'm not sure. Either one, you could do the same thing. What I did was when I tapped the button to take the picture, if it was reflex, it was set to long exposure. I think it was reflex, and it was set for like a half-second long exposure. But what I did was, as soon as you tap the button, you tap it again, and you can actually get like a shorter exposure, like more like a quarter of a second, and that again really accentuates the flow of the water without the braiding, and it was breezy. And this pine tree that's leaning over in the front, I think in or maybe it's a cedar, but on the Instagram post I said the tree looks like it's trying to photobomb, leaning in for a photobomb. But it was moving, and by doing that real tap on the shutter, it enabled me to get the tree nice and still. In fact, I think down in this area here, those who are watching live, if you look at my mouse pointer, I think down in here there might be a little more movement yet, but the main part of the thing was
right at the base where it starts, you can see maybe just a little bit, but your
it's still really crisp though.
Pixel peeping.
I was pleased with it. And I tried this a few times, and this was the one that turned out the best. But I like when I shoot a waterfall. I like, there's one thing to get the whole waterfall, but then there's something else to be said about just isolating part of it. And I cropped this 4x5 for Instagram, so there was actually a little more up top, but it's a point where the rocks changed coloring or something. So I'm kind of glad I did crop it. It was kind of distracting.
I like the way it looks like roots or vines coming down off, and it just like you just follow them down into the water, and it's I love the motion of long exposure. Has to be my favorite type of photography. It's just it's a beautiful shot.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So
well, that's our recent photos. I don't think there's any more. No, that's it.
No.
There we go. We get rid of that. So let's just check in with the chat and see who's saying what in there. Let's see. I haven't seen it for a while. Carl Kowalski is in the house. Tuned in late, but could the issue of the raw engine, if Darkroom isn't going, let's see here. Tuned in late, but could the issue with the raw engine, if Darkroom isn't doing it, they use Apple's raw engine and Adobe uses their own. That's possible.
I don't know enough about raw engines to know how that works.
Yeah, me neither.
But that could be that's an interesting point. Yeah, I guess the question is try it out more to see if you can recreate it somehow, and if it does show up in Darkroom, because you said it didn't, but I'm sure somebody said it did.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I'll send you maybe another photo, like a ceiling shot, and without updating it, like just the raw, and throw it in Darkroom and see if it does it. If you can.
Well, I took some with mine
Okay, yeah.
of just like a real light wall,
Right,
very
yeah.
similar to your ceiling shots. And
I
I
would
threw
say
the
you
same
know it
file
right
into
away.
Darkroom, Lightroom, all that stuff, and it showed up in Snapseed and Lightroom, but it didn't show up in, like I say, Raw Power didn't show up. Darkroom, it didn't show up. And I don't know if I have any other raw editors or not. But yesterday when we were talking about this, I tried Camera M, I tried Halide, I tried Reflex, and I tried Camera Plus.
Yeah.
And all the raw files had it in it. So, it's obviously not a camera app. So there's nothing that the developers can do. But I mean, unless they know something about like Carl says with the raw engines, maybe I don't know, maybe there's something to that. It'd be very interesting. So,
yeah.
Like I said earlier, it's good discussion to be had. And
the plot
I'll be getting a hold of Chris Cohen and seeing if there's something he can do to dig in. Wouldn't that be something if his first week at Apple he found a fix for something like this?
Give the man a raise.
All right. Well, I guess we got ourselves a show. Scott, tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, I like to hide. I don't want to be found. No, I'm on Twitter. I'm on all the things. Twitter, I think, at Roscoe P. Coltrane. From there you'll find me on Instagram and stuff like that. And I'm on all the social medias and stuff. So
cool. And you're in the Facebook groups for the iPhoneography podcast and Shane's Bloody Legends group.
There's so many groups.
Oh yeah. And it's Dave. We're just reminding everybody should know by now where they can find you.
Yep, you can find me pretty much everywhere as Prof Pod, except for TikTok, where I'm Prof Pod PGH.
Alrighty. Well, and you can find me in the Facebook group, same ones that Scott's in pretty much, and on Instagram and Threads as Macmillan Photo, and on X Macmillan_photo. I don't post many pictures there, and there is an iPhoneography community there that I run. It's not very active, mind you, but there's over 300 people in it. Just debating on whether to keep it going or not, because it's just another thing to look after. But you can find me on Glass, and my name is just at Greg on Glass. And the links are in the show notes. You can find us all, wherever we are. So, all right. Well, thank you all to those in the chat room who are watching live on YouTube. And we'll get this all sorted out eventually if we do it enough to make it a more smoother start. But we do appreciate you watching, and thanks for those who are listening to the audio later on. And something new about the audio podcast, the podcast app from Apple. If you've updated your iPhone to iOS 17.4, you can actually read a transcript along with the audio. And that is really cool. So if there's something earlier, say in the show that you might have missed, you can search for certain words and find them. And that is really neat. And and it works in as far as I know. I haven't checked the back catalog of ours to see how far back this goes, but it's a really cool feature. So if you're listening on an iPhone and you want to find something or read along, um, you know, it's there. It's really cool. So uh, anyway, on that note, I guess we'll say goodbye to the people in YouTube, and I guess we'll see you all on the next one.
Have a great one, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in.